can't tell already, Facebook and YouTube are entirely immoral, also unconstitutional. See, our first constitutional right, those of you who are Christians, all you care about is talking about the Jesus and judging others, and then talking about how it's not okay for others to judge you because they're not Jesus, and blah, blah, fucking blah, whatever. It's not just Christians. You're not allowed to speak out. When a group of people harms you, and that group is a specific religion of people, sure, not everybody of that religion is doing it to you, but the majority of the people of that religion, well, that's a different story. It's easy to turn a blind eye when it's not happening to you. Jesus didn't say to turn a blind eye to what's happening to others. Turn the other cheek, not turn a blind eye. How much abuse are you required to take before you stop turning the other cheek? How many times do you have to let people hurt you? And that's literally what it is. Either you let these people hurt you, or you defend yourself, and more people will hurt you. If you're called mentally ill and somebody attacks you, you have to let them beat on you. You guys don't know what that's like because you don't have to live it, so it must not be happening. Now, I hear a lot of black people complaining that white people are like this. Well, it's not a race thing. Those very same black people who are complaining about white people and saying white people are racist, really? The color of my skin makes me a racist? I'm pretty sure that makes you a racist. I'm not allowed to say that, am I? Facebook and YouTube both have their bias. Let's take our First Amendment, for example. It's not just the freedom of religion, but that's what religious people focus on. It's also our freedom of speech. Censorship is not freedom of speech. Facebook and YouTube were used to make me a target. And then I was censored from defending myself. Meanwhile, there's a lot of people that got no idea what the fuck's going on. All they've heard is the slander from YouTube and Facebook and all over the internet, matter of fact. The people who hate me spent lots of time and still spend lots of time watching my videos and posting up stuff and basically trying to make me out to be the worst person on planet Earth. I'm tired of being treated like that. I was tired of getting treated like that before I ever left Virginia. There was no reason for Natalie and Alicia to treat me like that. There was no reason for Maddie Boa to treat me like that. Oh, wait. Yeah, there was. These people were on drugs. And I wasn't. These people wanted to make their predators happy. You know, I wasn't trying to make my dad happy. I wasn't. I was trying to get his fucking help. Now, I jumped through the hoops that he wanted me to jump through, but then he wanted to lie and mislead the situation later. Not caring how him not keeping his word fucked me over and prevented me from being able to defend myself. Each one of these people who I went to for help ended up, instead of helping me by coming forward and telling the fucking truth, they ended up harming me by wasting my time, by wasting my resources, and by helping my predators. If Miss Peaches gave a shit about me, she would have already known that Blaine McCrelius, aka Freak, had been repeatedly threatening my life and harassing me. But she didn't give a fuck. I didn't mean shit to her. And I can prove that. Now, a lot of y'all are like, oh, well, she wouldn't have offered to do those things if she didn't care. She wouldn't have offered this and that and the other if she didn't care. No, see, here's the thing. Is that if she cared, she would have kept her word. It wouldn't have taken her over a year to still not come forward. See, the Bollingers had lots of hateful people on their side. People who, when you're hateful, you want to do something immediately, and you're going to. You are going to come after me immediately. You are going to harass me on my Facebook over their slander. You are going to assault me in real life over their slander. You are not going to give me the opportunity to defend myself. You are not going to look at evidence. And even if I have the evidence right there in handy and I'm saying, hey, these officers lied and the proof is right here, take a look, you are still not going to. And that's my fault, right? I chose for none of you to help me with this, right? I can prove that I went to many people for help before Natalie died to try to get actual assaults to stop. Actual assaults, not pretendy assaults, not pretendy future assaults. See, Natalie's whole bullshit premise was that she wanted to pretend that I would. Not that I did, but that I would. I was punished for her unjustified paranoia. It was unjustified. There was and is still no reason for people to be harming me for crimes that I did not commit. I was harmed over the fear that I might commit those crimes, that I could possibly commit, because I am actually being abused, actually being assaulted, actually having my life and the lives of my loved ones threatened. Because Natalie Bollinger and Alicia Bollinger pretended that I threatened their family in Virginia. Pretended. Is it okay for a human being to be repeatedly assaulted over paranoia from heroin whores? I already know that dealing with Jamie Curtis is a bad idea. I knew that she was strung out on meth. When I was up there this last time, I didn't see any indication that she was on meth. For once, in a lot of fucking years, for once, there was an indication that she was not on methamphetamines. And I was so happy for that. But that doesn't change the fact that she still got that mindset. She was using her 13-year-old boy to manipulate grown-ass men. A lot of women do this. Lana Engelheim does this. Most women are taught, oh, I have kids, I have kids, I have kids. Well, hold on a second. Let me just roll out the buffet for you. But when you have your kids lying to both of the men that you're dating, Jamie Lee Curtis, what the fuck is wrong with you? So what does this all have to do with Facebook and YouTube? People were going out of their way to prevent me from being able to defend myself everywhere. I didn't have a computer to use to defend myself. I had to borrow other people's because mine was in the custody of the police. And I was fine with that. But I needed help. The officers in Natalie's case were supposed to bring my computer to me the next day in Boulder, and they didn't. I wanted them to hold that computer as long as they needed to in order to get what they needed to find Natalie. And later to find Natalie's killer. Because mind you, when I gave them that computer and I tried to force my phone into their hands so they get all of that information off of there, they would have realized immediately that, yeah, I was the fucking victim. But they never returned that computer. They never tried to return that computer. They were busy preying on the mentally ill thing. They knew that they would get away with these things by calling me mentally ill. They knew that they would get away with cutting me off from my resources, from my friends, from my help. They knew that all they had to do to get away with it was call me mentally ill. And it's fine. Now, Facebook and YouTube want to ban me because these people wanted to complain that everything that I was typing was spam. It's all spam. So there I am in the middle of a fucking crisis. People are offering to help me, and I can't get a hold of these people. The very few that I was able to reach out to and get to, like Shannon Alvarado. Oh my God, when I got to her house and there are fucking Chucky dolls everywhere. Holy shit. When I realized, yeah, she's not a fucking meth head, she's an alcoholic. She sure acted like a fucking meth head on the phone, though, and she said it's because she's got OCD. That's not OCD, you fucking idiot. That's not OCD. Obsessive compulsive disorder is completely different from having no respect for another human being. Alcoholics and meth addicts have no respect for other human beings. Now, on Facebook and YouTube, both, you can bash men all you want, and it's not illegal. It's not against their rules of conduct. It's only against the rules of conduct if it's a man. It says based on gender, but it doesn't mean based on gender. Just like all of this racism from BLM and from a lot of black folks and from a lot of white folks and other folks who support BLM, their racism is acceptable. By law, it's not. By law, it's just as illegal as all the rest of it. But on Facebook and YouTube, it's only wrong if you target the wrong group. That's right. If you're being abused by Christians and you speak out, well, now you're a bad person who needs to be banned because you're anti-Christian. No, I'm anti-abuse, bitch. The problem I have with Christianity is that you've got a bunch of people who are abusing that book and twisting things in that book into something that they're not as an excuse for harming others. As an excuse why it is okay to throw reason out the window and only listen to superstition. Only listen to bias. If the Bible says it's okay to own slaves, is it okay to own slaves? There's a lot of stuff that the Bible says is okay that we in the modern world are not okay with. We are not okay in modern day with you taking your baby and throwing it off of a cliff or drowning it. We are not okay with stoning a child to death for telling off their parent. We are not okay with stoning a prostitute to death. Because at least today, we can acknowledge that those people are victimized to the point that that's all they've got left. You guys have no idea how difficult it is to get a job when you're different. And then you add on all of this extra shit, all of the crap that is on my record that shouldn't be there, that an employer, when they look up my name, they're going to see. Or if they look up my name on the internet, What about all of the court dates that I've had? I told you what would happen. Like fucking dominoes, when I told you what would happen if you didn't come with me in person to talk to those folks in a timely and efficient fucking manner. I told you what would happen. Those predators, they don't care that you are going to make excuses for the next 7 months. You said that you would help me. And in the 7 months that it took you to literally not keep your word, those predators were busy the whole time, literally harming me in person. But you're not there to see it, so it's fine, isn't it? Facebook doesn't care. Now, then we got the First Amendment situation where religious nut jobs use it that way, and lots of other people use it another way. And the police are telling me, oh, well, if Facebook did this or Facebook did that. Wait a second. Wait a second. When did we allow Facebook to be the determining factor in the law? Especially when you're going to continue to refuse to allow me to show any evidence from Facebook because it's from Facebook. Any evidence at all. My public pretenders aren't going to do their job because they would actually have to work. None of these cops wanted to actually work. They just want to collect a goddamn paycheck. And that's what they're doing. At my expense and yours. While innocent people are dead due to their negligence, and you are paying them to be negligent. Meanwhile, people can threaten to kill me. People can slander me and make all of these things on YouTube and Facebook about me. But I'm not allowed to say anything. I'm not allowed to see it. I'm not allowed to show it as evidence. These people can do whatever they want to me. And I have to get a judge to jump through and get this shit. I need a judge to sign warrants in order to get this shit. But in order to get to a judge, I need help because no judge is going to listen to somebody who's called mentally ill. You are not understanding how this works. Even when I complained about the people on Facebook who were threatening me, and Facebook blocked them for a few days, the police, even then, after telling me, well, if Facebook does something about us, let us know. Well, Facebook did do something about it. They blocked it. They also removed the comments, so the evidence is gone. On the bright side, I learned how to take screenshots. So I got screenshot evidence. Oh, we need to see the actual, Well, hold on a second. You told me to complain about it. If I complain about it and Facebook takes it down, then you'll do something about it. But now magically you can't do something about it because Facebook took the evidence down. Are you fucking stupid? Trying to explain to the average American these things are like, you're just making excuses. You're just making excuses. Hey! Look at the fucking evidence, idiot! Instead of assuming my guilt, look at the fucking evidence. That's all I'm asking for from the police. That's all I'm asking for from the courts. That's all I'm asking for from the Bollingers. Look at all of the fucking evidence. Ignoring that evidence has resulted into me being abused to the point that I'm living in a 6 foot by 6 foot fucking shack. It's resulted in me being victimized to the point that my credit score is 98. Because people can rip me off and I can't do anything. I can't go to the police and get help. Somebody who is called mentally ill has to have a guardian there and present. Without a guardian to protect us from your bad assumptions and your bad laws and your bad excuses, we just have to take it And these people who pretend like they are the victims, like the Bollinger family after what they did to me, and Mackenzie Jackman, and Matty Boa, Derek Apodaca. How about Miss Peaches? How about Kara Johnson Miles? How about Cara Rogers, aka Cara Mia? The evidence of their wrongdoing still fucking exists. Darren O'Connor, he told me that nobody was going to pick up my case because it was too complicated. Do you know why it was too complicated? Because of the multiple jurisdictions they shipped me across. If you, an officer that I am trying to turn in for breaking the law, ship me across jurisdictional boundaries in order to prevent me from making that report, that's too complicated? Hold on a second. You just utilized jurisdiction to prevent me from defending myself against you. You just literally had me transferred out of jurisdiction to cover up your goddamn crimes. People keep saying you need to move here and you need to move there and you need to move there, and then they tell me you need to come in here. You need to come in person and make a fucking report in the jurisdiction where it happened. I fucking tried that. I got abused. I got assaulted. I got drugged. I got the mentally ill treatment. Scott DaCosta thinks that he's slick. Like, oh, well, if I don't use the term mentally ill, it makes it okay. No, it's the same fucking treatment, DaCosta, and you fucking know that. I beg for help on Facebook and YouTube. That's the only reason I use them now. To beg for help. I'm trying to tell you and showing you what's going on because I need help. You have no idea the abuse that I have to take every day. The predators that I have to just keep my mouth shut, or I will get abused by the fucking cops and the population of this fucking racist ass redneck town. And then I got black folks pretending like I'm racist because I say BLM is racist. Well, hold on a second, you ignorant fuck. From day one when I moved to Chapel, Nebraska, I've been sticking up and standing up for black folks in this town. And that got me hated. And that got me victimized. And that got me abused. But to this day, I still stick up for black people in this town. If I'm going to stick up for black people and I ain't even black, what the fuck makes you think I'm not going to stick up for myself? I shouldn't have had to break the law in order to get the cops to take a look. But I broke the law in the way that the law was broken against me to show you that it was illegal. And if it's illegal for me to do it back, then it was illegal for them to do it to begin with. And somebody should have done something about it instead of trying to frame me as a violent animal by allowing violent animals to harm me repeatedly and ignoring it. Every time I went in to try to show the cops the crimes that were being committed, they made every excuse not to. Not to do a goddamn thing about it. Not to investigate it. Chris Kurth, something should have been done about that almost 3 years ago. 2018. I'm sorry, not 3 years ago. Each and every one of these people who threatened to kill me, from Chris Kurth all the way back to Tim Beeson, I gave them 3 days to keep their word before I went to the cops. I didn't go to the cops because they threatened to kill me. I went to the cops because they didn't keep their word. That was a nasty belch. Now, Facebook and YouTube, they want to destroy evidence or allow other people to destroy evidence. Because when you've got millions of people worldwide who all of a sudden hate you over slander, and those millions of people are trying to get on your Facebook and destroy it so that you can't be heard. See, that's the point here, is that the public and the Bollingers and the police and the courts and my own public pretenders did everything in their power to prevent me from being heard. They did everything they could to try to destroy my Facebook. They even destroyed one YouTube. Do you know why they destroyed that YouTube? Because I threatened people back. Who did I threaten? Ted Bollinger. I said, if anything happens to Shelley or Danica or Alicia, because by this point they had already used and abused and played and manipulated on multiple occasions. The fact is, by preventing me from defending myself, showing evidence, or facing my accusers, by having court dates without me, and by locking me up, but not notifying anyone that I was locked up, making it so that I had warrants that should not have even been there, that cost me more money and more time. All they had to do was try to eat up time until the statute of limitations was over. And the difference between them getting away with it and them going to prison for it, which would change the system, which would hold these predators responsible, regardless of whether or not they're wearing a badge. But no, I'm an easy victim, so that makes it okay. You make laws that say that it's wrong to do these things, but you make no way to enforce it. These officers need to be forced to wear their body cameras and keep them on at all points in time. Those body cameras need to be turned into the DA immediately, and they need to be turned over to your public pretender who does need to look at them. But they didn't do those things. And they didn't do those things because these people who made all of these empty promises, they couldn't find the time in years to keep their fucking word. Laura Nelson had a bunch of shit she should have told those cops. But at the same time, she's afraid of those cops. She's afraid of fucking public opinion in this town. She knows that car was fucked up when she fucking sold it to me, or when her fucking husband sold it to me. And I knew there was issues too. When I was finally able to get it fixed, months after Natalie was dead, it's because David Nelson, Laura's wife, told me how to fix it. And it wasn't easy. I still have issues with my right wrist from what Waylon Lolotide did to me. I still have problems with my knee and my ankle and my hip from what Waylon Lolotide did to me. I still have PTSD from what those officers did to me. And I still have documentation from witnesses that the stories that I told about them are true. But in order to get heard, people like Brandon Ratner needed to come forward and say, hey, he's not schizophrenic. He is telling the truth. He did come to me for help repeatedly. I had other things going on. And that is not Sean's fault. Is it my fault that he had other things going on? Were those my choices? Because through all of this, people's excuses for victimizing me is that I chose this, that I chose not to have help. The people offered me help and I turned them down. Is it actual help that I turned down? If you're telling me that I need to abandon all of my court cases and go live with, well, the guys, we call him Peace. Most of the folks I know on the streets have street names. Now, he lives in Florida. Miss Peaches wanted me to go live with him. He can barely take care of himself. He can barely afford his own bills. And when she was suggesting that I go live there, I had court dates. I didn't want to have warrants out. Before that, I went to every single court date. I always went to my court date. To have warrants out for my arrest for failure to appear. They were unlawful warrants, by the way, because I was incarcerated. You cannot have a failure to appear if you were incarcerated. My public pretenders didn't care. Pamela Cardi and her boss knew that I was trying to take them to court, so they procrastinated literally for the last 2 years to send me that stuff. When did they send me? When it was already too late to take them to court. They sent that shit to me. And yeah, the evidence that I was telling the truth is there. I mean, I listened to the first recording. The very first recording on there is probably 10 or 15 recordings in, though. It's a call from me to Pamela Cardi about the abuse that I was enduring at the hands of the guards in that jail. There's a lot more evidence in there, too, like me trying to get help because I was trying to get a court date. Do you know that I literally threatened the President of the United States' life to try to get a court date? And then I was denied a court date? I was also denied the right to speak out in any of my other court dates because they used that to prevent me from speaking out. Why should I have to do that? Why should somebody have to break the law to get someone to take a look at the abuse that they are enduring? To take it seriously, to actually look at the goddamn evidence, instead of blowing me off, telling me to go home, and suggesting I go to the goddamn library. Hey, I'm right here with my goddamn computer. Look! I have walked into your police station with my computer and my bag of evidence. Look! I have walked into your public pretender's office with my computer and my bag of evidence. Why aren't you here? Zoe Tanner, why did you repeatedly not show up for our meetings? Why didn't you inform me that you weren't going to show up? Why is it that the people who are filling in weren't officially made my public pretenders so that they could do their jobs? You're telling me they're supposed to show me the shit that's on these cameras? I knew it's on the goddamn cameras. I was there. I didn't need Pamela Cotton, or sorry, Stephanie Cotton, to tell me I can't be your lawyer. So I can't look at the evidence that you were scheduled to show, Miss Zoe Tanner. And I can't look at the evidence that you were supposed to show our investigator last week who didn't show up. I can't look at it because I'm not your fucking public pretender. And then that phone call with her boss, Katie, what the fuck ever her name is. And I got it written down somewhere, probably in a few different places. And I also got cards of all these people, business cards. But the thing is that I shouldn't have to show this on Facebook. Facebook can censor your First Amendment rights and your Second Amendment rights too. Facebook and YouTube both. Guns are important. They are. My predators were repeatedly busted with firearms. In some of these cases, firearms that were meant to kill me. Natalie Bollinger was willing to murder me rather than tell the truth. If that tells you anything about the abuse from her family and her drug abuse, she was willing to outright murder me in cold blood. And yes, it would have been cold blood because she knew that the narrative that she was selling was fucking bullshit. She just didn't want to be embarrassed. And it was worth it to that heroin junkie who these people are like, this is a good person, a good person, a good person. Yes, maybe she is a good person when she's not on heroin. Maybe she is. I know Tom Nelson is great when he's not drinking. I know Shannon Alvarado's pretty all right when she's not drinking. I know Sandy Fromm is just as fucking crazy when she's not drinking, but she can't stay not drinking for very long. Matter of fact, she's even more scary when she's sober because she's snapping at you nonstop because she wants her booze. This is a woman who will crack hit an aluminum pipe that hasn't had marijuana on it in weeks. And she's crack hitting it. Like, this is why women get high. Women will smoke the last of that stuff you guys won't smoke. I don't want to smoke that. I don't want to smoke an aluminum fucking can. I don't. Sandy, that's probably the reason that you're going completely fucking insane. It's because you're smoking aluminum. There's a lot of people on here who are trying to educate you on guns. You know, there's a lot of people who didn't want to learn about guns, didn't want to learn gun safety or how to handle a gun or how to properly anything with a gun. They just hate guns. And then there's a situation where they could really use that firepower. And what happens? They don't know how to use a gun. If you got an intruder that comes to your house, or two or three of them, let's say one of them comes to your front door and one of them comes to your back door. Now, the one at the front door, you're able to get lucky and fucking knock them out with the door. Now you've got yourself a loaded fucking shotgun. All right. What are you going to do? Your family's still upstairs. You just heard an intruder come in the back door. Now you can hope that you can scare him with that there shotgun, but you don't even know how to shoulder the goddamn thing. So what's going to happen in that scenario? You're going to die. That's exactly what's going to happen. See, there's lots of scenarios where people show up with weapons and try to do stuff to an unarmed person. I'm not sure if you remember that black man who was shot in the back by them police officers for being armed with a taser. If you notice, it's the cop's fucking taser that he's running off with. They were physically harming him. They were instigating his fight or flight, which is natural. Your body and your mind are going to go into that state no matter what at that point. When people are physically torturing you, and yes, pain compliance is physical torture. They pushed it to the point the physical compliance was what they were using. They didn't need to use it. But you notice in that scenario, that unarmed man was shot in the back for a weapon that he did not bring to the fight. There are many situations where you, as a non-gun owner who hates guns, there are a lot of scenarios, especially now, look around you. There are a lot of scenarios where you might end up having to make a choice between picking up a gun or getting shot. If those are your choices, you're going to end up shot because you don't know how to use a gun. Ted Bollinger, when he got busted, after Natalie was killed, he got busted with methamphetamines in his vehicle in Adams County and also in Arapahoe County. And he also got busted with a loaded fucking firearm. This is a man who has attempted to beat his ex-wives, all of his ex-wives, to death. This is a man who rapes his own children and has his children have sex with strangers to pay off his drug debts. Morally, this man should not have a gun. I'm not allowed to have a gun. Does that stop me? Well, according to YouTube, I believe that they're not allowed to take this off my channel because it is not an actual bullet firing gun. This thing fires BBs. I'll show you. BBs. Check this out. Oh, it's got a light on the front. It's pretty cool. But it's got BBs. It's got a big, bright orange tip. This is what I can defend myself with. Or pepper spray. But then it's in an 88-cent Walmart water pistol. It's obvious from looking at it that it's a goddamn water pistol. But the Bollingers, by the police helping them to prevent me from being able to go to my court dates, the Bollingers were able to use that personal protection device to pretend that I had an actual firearm and I was threatening to kill people. Obviously, the judge did not look at that evidence. Obviously. But he didn't have to. I wasn't allowed to show up in court. But that's not all. The Bollingers tried to pull some really fucked up shit. See, in order to guarantee that they would win if I was allowed to go to one court date, they tried to have it so that both of my court dates would be in different counties on the same day at the same time. The Bollingers coordinated together to try to have this happen. Meanwhile, none of the crimes that they were claiming happened in either one of those jurisdictions. So those are null and void. They are not legal. I am still expected to comply with them, but I am not going to comply with an unlawful order, especially when complying with that unlawful order puts my life and my loved ones' lives at risk. Miss Peaches put my life and my loved ones' lives at risk. King of Nickels put my life and my loved ones' lives at risk. The police put my life and my loved ones' lives at risk. Alicia Bollinger, same thing. Now, see, here's the thing. If I don't show up to a court date, then they automatically win, which means that even though I had all of the evidence required to win in court, I could have gone to either one of those court dates and won one of them, but they would have automatically won the other, which would prevent me from being allowed to defend myself. Instead, the police helped them to prevent me from going to either one. Meanwhile, I was never actually lawfully served with papers for those. Ever. If a man is prevented from going to court and defending himself, then it is null and void. I shouldn't have to break the law to show that these people repeatedly broke the law and harmed me repeatedly, and that the police would do nothing. Now I have to go to police officers who actually abused me to try to get help. And I also have to mind my P's and Q's because Facebook or YouTube might take offense to something that I said, even though it's perfectly lawful to say it. Facebook and YouTube can censor the shit out of you. People say, yeah, the courts suck, but it's the best we got, or it's the best in the world. Really? If that's the best we got in the world, then we need to just blow the place up. We need to just let coronavirus take over and kill everyone. I gotta believe there's some part of humanity worth living for, worth fighting for, worth sticking around for, and I ain't fucking seeing it. What I'm seeing is the predators getting away with it, and the victims being victimized for being victimized. If I have to break the law to defend my life and my loved ones' lives, so be it. This little plastic piece of shit here, is this going to save my life? No. Is this tip removable? No. If I try to twist it, it twists the whole barrel because the whole thing is fucking plastic. I suppose I could paint some black spray paint on it and try to intimidate people with it. But why? For what purpose? Those of you who are against guns, I mean, I get that you're against guns. I understand why you don't like guns. I don't like guns for the same fucking reason. But we're stuck with them. Ted Bollinger was able to get a gun. He's not allowed to own a gun, but he got a gun now, didn't he? Me, I have had probably close to 30 22 long rifles offered to me. What's a 22 long rifle? For those of you who don't know what a fucking 22 long rifle is, it's a very, very, very small bullet. Let me show you how big the casing is. I'm sorry I don't have a bullet to show you, but I do have an empty shell. This shell is the casing for a 22 long rifle. The bullet itself only sticks out about that far, so it's not very big. It's tiny. I mean, this thing right here is literally smaller than the BBs that go into this thing. No joke. But then again, these are plastic BBs that are shot out of this thing by a fucking cheap spring. It's spring powered. There's no black powder. There's no cordite. There's no, smokeless powder or Pyrodex or anything like that. It's just a spring that's pushing a piece of plastic forward, a red piece of plastic. Now, where I can legally own this, and I do legally own it, I bought it, it's mine, I bought it with my money, and I also bought it for gun safety. This right here, this is the BB this thing fires out. This is the magazine for it. It's plastic. There's a BB in it. Whole row of BBs actually all up in the front of it. So I mean, obviously, it's not a fucking real gun. Obviously, it's not going to do anything if someone decides they're going to show up and kill me. If Ted Bollinger decides to get himself another actual real firearm and get methed out of his goddamn gourd and come here and shoot me, this is going to do jack shit. This won't intimidate him. This won't scare him. And the rattling will probably set it off even if I did paint the tip black. Also, if I painted the tip black, the cops here would use that as an excuse to shoot me. So I can't do that. I have to be intelligent and safe about it. I'm tired of my loved ones dying. This is the charging handle. It's in the same place on a real M16. Grab it with your fingers like this. You pull it backwards and let it go. Now it's cocked. Yeah, did that sound like a big bang going through the wall, or was that a plastic BB bouncing around? And this is what I'm expected to defend myself with. If that. For being victimized, they took away my right to defend myself, forced drugs into me, so that the police could justify the fact that they just simply didn't want to do their fucking jobs. People of Region 1 simply didn't want to do their jobs. Cindy Taylor simply just didn't want to do her job. Jeff Ritter just didn't want to do his job. Kara Heller just didn't want to do her job. We're still paying all of these people, aren't we? But Facebook here, it don't care about none of that. YouTube here, it don't care about none of that. All this anti-Muslim stuff that I see on YouTube all the time, why don't they take that shit down? When I'm talking about a very, very specific group of people who are doing a lot of fucking harm, it's because they're doing harm. If you say, hey, the Nazis are doing bad shit, or the Nazis did bad shit and now neo-Nazis are continuing it, you're allowed to say that. But if you say Christians are doing these very same activities, well, then you're hating on someone's religious freedom, their First Amendment right. Well, hold on. What about my First Amendment right to my religious beliefs and my freedom of speech? Facebook doesn't observe my freedom of speech, neither does YouTube. It kind of tastes like eggs with ketchup. It's pumpkin spice, but I'm a terrible white person. I've never liked anything that tastes like pumpkin. Except pumpkin seeds. When I was a kid, I used to love salted pumpkin seeds. Those things were grub. And I always liked pumpkin pie, but this pumpkin spice shit's just nasty. Well, I get in trouble for that, saying that that's just straight nasty. We already know that Facebook is anti-gun. We already know that YouTube is anti-gun. We already know that people who want to educate you on firearms, they are trying to teach you about firearms, to give you an education, a free education. And you don't want it because there's guns there. You think that guns should be censored. Second Amendment says that we're allowed to own guns. So why would you want to censor education on that? You know, you may be completely against guns, and you may think that you got your kid trained that guns are bad and okay. But the fact is, at some point, they're going to go out with their buddies. They're going to do them some drinking. There's going to be some firearms there, and, well, they might go shooting. They're not going to know what the hell's going on. They're going to be oxygen deprived, so they're not going to make very good decisions. They're not going to know how to utilize the tool that's in their hand, and a tool that's, well, a tool can be very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. If you've got an axe and you decide that you're trying to pound one piece of rubber into another piece of rubber so you don't need the sharp end, and you're going to swing it two-handed, you know, you're swinging a piece of rubber or a big heavy chunk of metal that's meant for splitting wood at a piece of rubber that makes stuff bounce. If you end up with a hatchet in your fucking forehead or an axe in your forehead because you didn't know how to use an axe, because you thought axes were dangerous, well, you know what? They are dangerous when you don't know how to fucking use them. Can you imagine getting into a vehicle? I mean, sure, I can understand back in the 80s, if your kid gets into your vehicle, it's probably a stick, not an automatic. So you're not too worried about them going anywhere. Sure, it might roll down the street a little bit, but if they're lucky enough to touch the pedals and get it started, the first thing they're going to do is fucking kill it. No biggie. But let's say you got a 5 or 6-year-old, you know, they're starting to get tall enough to touch both at the same time. They can't see over the dash, though. That's a very dangerous thing. They don't know how to run that vehicle. That vehicle weighs 2,000 fucking pounds. That vehicle is not a weapon. It's not a weapon. It's a tool. It is meant to get you from point A to point B. And there are times when that vehicle is also meant to protect you. We put airbags and seat belts and all this other gadgets and gizmos and OnStar and all these things for a reason. You want that car to protect you. If there's an accident, you want it to protect you. If you run out of gas and you're stuck on the side of the road in a snowstorm, you want it to protect you. When you've got some wingnut with a firearm shooting at your vehicle, you want that vehicle to protect you. You want it to get you out of harm's way. It's a tool. Just like any other tool, it can be abused. It can be used as a weapon. At any point in time, I could have gotten in any one of my vehicles and actually ran people down. And you see people doing that at these Black Lives Matter rallies. People are actually running human beings over. Is that vehicle meant for killing people? Was it designed for running over people? No. Are there guns that were designed for killing people? Yes. Quite a few of them, actually. Most of those guns are dual purpose. A bullet is a bullet. Whether you're shooting at a human being or you're shooting at an elk, it's a bullet. And it takes a person with a finger to pull the trigger and fire that bullet, regardless of what Facebook and YouTube think about the matter. You know, between your child being ignorant on their first gun experience and them seeing a channel where somebody who exercises proper gun safety is teaching proper gun safety, I hope your kids accidentally watch something like that over at a friend's house. I do. I hope that their first shooting experience that they're probably going to have, I hope that their first shooting experience is shooting at targets with a proper knowledge of what they're doing and safe handling. I don't know how many people that I've seen that never took a hunter safety course, and you say, "Hey, have you ever fired a firearm?" "Yeah." "You want to go out shooting?" "Sure." And then you get out there, and they're walking around with the gun, turning it this way and that, and it's pointing at people. There's live rounds in this thing, and the barrel is pointing at other human beings. Funny story here. I was watching a thing about SHOT Show, and this guy was that's one of those gun things where they um, buy and sell and trade, and a lot of big major companies try to get government contracts through SHOT Show. But this guy is going through the cycling measures and the protocols and everything of this little submachine gun that he designed, and it's a really cool submachine gun. I mean, I love the mechanics of it. But then I'm looking at all the people walking around, and he's got it. I'll show you. You know, Here, I'll use the pistol because it's smaller. I'll show you. Orange tip. Yes, it's plastic. It says 9 by 19 on the side and Bomar. It's not a real gun. I mean, you can see the cheap plastic seam there. But the guy, when he's going through it, he's got people over on that side of him, and he's, checking the slide and showing it off. And this obviously it's a submachine gun, so it doesn't look like this. And it doesn't have all the same operable parts. They're not all in the same places, and they don't all look the same. But the proper thing to do, towards the ground, always towards the ground. Don't point it at people. Don't point it at your computer. Don't point it at your lights. Don't point it at your kids. Don't point it at your ceiling. Bullets go through things. Gravity dictates that what goes up is going to come down. Now, this bullet, in some cases, could travel up to 10 miles before coming back down. It could go, and because of the momentum, it could go right through your house. It can go into your ceiling on the second floor. It can go through your roof, through the floor, and then through the next floor into your basement. So, in case of accidental discharge, you want to point it at the floor. You don't want to put your finger on the trigger, ever. You keep it off the trigger. The very first thing that you should do before you hand somebody a firearm on this, you cock the slide and you check your finger. You put your finger in there and check for brass. You look to see if there's a bullet in there. Now, the first thing I do is pop out the clip and then take a look. But at the same time, there's nobody over there. Nobody. Here it is. It's pointing up in the air. This is the wrong thing to do with it. This is the wrong. This is the wrong thing to do with it. This. Oh, see, I put my finger in the trigger and it went off. Why? Because I was fucking around with it. So when I stuck my finger in there, it went off. I was saying you shouldn't do blam, exactly what it is that you shouldn't be doing, and exactly what happens if you're not paying fucking attention. Is that proper gun safety? Do you want your kids messing around with a gun like this? You want them playing Russian roulette? Is that? I mean, yeah, we can talk all day about the dangers of alcohol and what should be done about that. Maybe you could avoid the situation altogether as long as you had to talk about alcohol with your kids. No, that's not the case. Your kids might stay completely away from guns for the rest of their lives too. They might show up at that situation, and even being completely drunk, they might go, I don't like guns. I don't want to touch it. I really just want to go home. And I was kind of one of those kids. When people were doing fucked up shit that I didn't want to be involved in, I wanted to go home. But I was with them. They had the vehicle, so I either had to walk home or I had to wait for them to get done doing the fucked up shit they were doing. It's a tough choice when you got 20 or 30 miles to walk home. It's an even tougher choice when you got hundreds. What the law says isn't the same as what Facebook does. Facebook should not dictate the law. Now, the things that the police told me were different from what they told Aaron Cockerham, which were different from what they told Lan and Amanda Ingline, which is different from what they told my attorneys, which is different from. Are you seeing where I'm going with this? With the current state of things, there might be. Now, I don't really think there's going to be a civil war over some chump like Trump. I don't. I do think that, there's a lot of violence that is brewing right now, and a lot of people who are wishing they had somebody to take it out on. I do believe that this nation is pretty damn near crumbled down to nothing, and we just ain't realized it yet. But we need to look at all of the evidence. We need to allow everyone the same opportunities. That's what equality is. And no, you may not have the same opportunity as far as being born into a rich bitch family like Trump. Sure, I am not going to get $1 million loan from my daddy. Matter of fact, my daddy is more likely to steal from me than to help me. Although he did help me a bit last time I was up there. Well, the time before that when I was up there in Washington. He helped me with a vehicle, but he also treated me like shit the whole time I was up there. He was condescending and an asshole. That's how autistic people are treated. We're treated like we're retarded, and that because we're autistic, you know better than we do. No, you think differently than I do. Your motivations are different than mine are. That doesn't mean you know better than I do. See, if you've been a mechanic your whole life, and you grew up with a dad who's a mechanic, and you were always in the garage with him, helping him out, getting him tools and stuff like that. You know the tools, you know the cars, you know the processes, you know all of that. Your experience is what people are paying for. You know what you're talking about from experience. If I come to you with a vehicle that's busted, I'm not going to argue with you over what's broken because I know that despite the fact that I'm mechanically inclined, I am not an auto mechanic. I don't know the tolerances, I don't know the firing sequences, and I don't have all the books that you guys have. Most of the mechanics I know have a lot of books. Why do they have those books? Because those books will tell you how to fix it. It's kind of like, why do lawyers have law books? You really expect the lawyers to remember every bit of 7 million laws for the state of Colorado? Is that what it is? That's nuts. That's completely fucking ludicrous. And it's never going to fucking happen. You're not likely to find a lawyer who is going to be able to read all of those laws in their lifetime. You shouldn't expect more out of an auto mechanic. And if you're not an auto mechanic, you should probably listen to the auto mechanic. But also, if the auto mechanic is not going to do their job, then you need to find somebody who will. If that's the only auto mechanic in town and you are dependent upon that vehicle, and that auto mechanic is the one who broke it, and you and him got fights going on in court because he broke your fucking vehicle, you're probably not going to be able to go to him to get your goddamn vehicle fixed, even if the insurance pays for it. Plus, there's the fact that now you got to worry that he might be vindictive and he might break things on your vehicle. He's a mechanic. His experience. He looks at stuff and he sees stuff that wore down and broke down and tore down over time and eventually stopped working. For him to know which O-ring to snip is not a problem. For him to know which hose on the radiator to poke a hole into that's just a pinhole size is not a problem. With my experience is different. My experience is with being raped and molested and growing up with other children who were raped and molested. Some of them who raped and molested people because that's what they were taught is okay. The grossest part of this country right now is that we teach boys and girls a completely different set of morals. We don't teach girls morals at all. We don't. We teach them to use and to abuse and to blame and to hate and to be drama from middle school for the rest of their lives. You know, there's a lot of people that at the very beginning of this were pretty honest. Ashley Bowman was pretty honest. But then when people that she wanted to be cool with in high school, this is years after high school, but Ashley Bowman, she's not small. She's a hefty lady. She's not cute. She's not attractive. You know, she has a pretty shitty fucking attitude, and she's a drama hound. So no, it's not easy for her to make friends. And so, like these girls that she wanted to be friends with almost 2 decades ago, that really only put up with her, but she wants them to be friends. So now that it's popular to hate me, Ashley Bowman is fine with talking shit, spreading rumors, and being a bitch. That's how they controlled people in Lodgepole, Nebraska. There were two groups when I was in high school in Lodgepole, Nebraska. There was the popular group of kids that pretty much all grew up in Lodgepole, and then there were the nerds and the outsiders, the out of towners, people like me. I moved to Nebraska when I was 15. Before that, I didn't know shit about white people or Nebraska. Holy fuck, did I get an education? Football is more important than your education in Nebraska, in most schools, just so you know. Your girls are probably going to be wanted or expected to play volleyball. Now, for Ashley Bowman, after all these years, still being so desperate for those popular pretty girls to like her, I know what that feels like, but I don't want those popular girls to like me. I just want them to tell the truth. But they get to use their popularity to get other people like Ashley Bowman to do things. You don't even have to ask them to do things. They want you to like them. They're going to do bad shit to people, innocent people, on their own, just because you said that those people did something they didn't. Or just because you're mad or angry with those people for telling the truth about you. And there are thousands of Ashley Bowmans just in western Nebraska. Most of the women in western Nebraska, just like most of the men, have nothing better to do than smoke meth, drink beer, fuck their kids, and talk about how everybody else is a goddamn sinner. Facebook, despite the fact that there was a murder investigation going on and my Facebook was important, Facebook didn't care. The police were able to manipulate the situation and make sure that I was harmed. And they had to do that in order to get away with the things that they did. They had to peg me as mentally ill and have me injected with drugs at a facility like Clearview in order to justify the things that they had been doing wrong, including covering up their own crimes by sending me to places like Clearview. I needed help, not abuse. Facebook don't care. Most of you don't care until it happens to you, and then you want my help. And then I have to tell you, hey, I can't go there. Because when I needed help, you were nowhere to be found. Yes, I understand that you're being victimized by the exact same predators by name that harmed me. But because you didn't come forward when it happened to me, I had to flee for my own safety. Because you allowed them to peg me as mentally ill and to harm me repeatedly and to assault me repeatedly and pretend like I was the one who was violent. I can't help you now that you're asking me. Now, with Brandon Ratner, with the stuff that he asks for help with, yes, I can help with that. And it doesn't take me 3 years to help. Brandon Ratner could have helped me how I needed 3 years ago. He could have spoken up 3 years ago, 2 years ago, last year, this year. He could have spoken up on his own at any point in time and actually documented it and spoke out that he made the effort. When his brother disappeared, I made a missing persons video about his brother to help find his brother, just like I had when Mandy Hughes' son disappeared, just as I had when Shauna Sinclair's daughter was abducted, just as I did when Natalie Bollinger disappeared, just as I did when Alicia Bollinger disappeared. Just as I did when Sarah Rubiolo Spice disappeared. And when Brittany disappeared. These are all people I know. Actually, it was just a post for Brittany and for Sarah because I didn't know how to do videos at that point in time. And as far as doing it on YouTube, I didn't learn how to do the YouTube videos until well after Natalie was already dead. By that point, I knew how to make Facebook videos, though. Over half of those killed by police last year were disabled. That includes the black ones. Nearly half of those murdered by police last year were homeless. And yes, that includes the black ones. Before you tell me that Black people are the most marginalized people in America. Maybe you should look at who the most marginalized people in America really are. There are plenty of groups that will help you out just because you're black, but just because somebody is homeless, they end up with lip service from people who don't have to go through it, telling them how to think and how to feel. And you see all these people who had all of this help that I never had, but I told the truth about them. They went to those people for help and they got help. Their family, when I tell on them for the horrible things that they do, they go to their families and have their families do horrible things to me, or their friends do horrible things to me because I spoke out about the abuse. Facebook doesn't care about that, neither does YouTube. They don't care about the fact that I continue to endure the abuse. They don't care that their involvement has prevented or created a situation, rather, where there's literally nothing that I can do to defend myself. That's why I make these YouTube videos, why I post up on Facebook. I'm not allowed to defend myself. I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed the resources to do so. I had all the resources I would have needed right before Natalie died. All the resources I would have needed to be able to defend myself, protect myself, and show the truth. I didn't have the knowledge to do all of it, but I had the resources. I haven't had the resources since. And I still haven't had anyone in person sit down and teach me how to do any of this. But you know what? Just a couple of nights ago, I paid $150 for someone to teach me how to do eBay. I'd spent almost $2,000 before that on various other people like Josh Hughes, who just never kept their word. But that guy a few days ago, he did keep his word. I sold my very first item on eBay today. I shipped out my very first eBay item sale through the post office today. And me and the lady who worked there were trying to figure out why it is that the options that are supposed to be there I didn't have. But we're troubleshooting it. She's trying to help me. She also showed me what the free boxes were, what they're for sending, and things of that nature. I can show you some of those. These are for priority mail. Um, there's different types. Some of them are flat rates. Like this one's a flat rate envelope. I think it's like $8.40 to send it out, no matter what. But it's only $8.40. You know. Um, I did make a mistake. It's my very first order. You know, I I didn't send it out flat rate shipping like I was supposed to. I sent it out for first class mail, and that was like six something, and I only charged them $7 for the shipping. And if I had sent it by the option that they selected, um, it actually would have cost more. It would have cost $8.40, which is more than what they gave me. I think all said and done, it's basically around $7 for me to send the way that I did, which is what I did charge. But I was supposed to send it priority flat rate, and I didn't. But also, I mean, this is my first one, so I mean, it's not like I chose to screw it up on purpose. There's a lot of options to go through, and the point is that it was $150 well spent, and I haven't made $150 off of it, not anywhere near. But I was able to get my PayPal up and running, and I went from there's like $14 on my PayPal now because I had to use some of the money that they paid for the item in order to pay shipping and handling. But it went through PayPal, so I didn't actually, even though I had the money to give the post office, lady at the post office was like, no, they already pay for it. You just got to put the shipping label on it and send it out. So hopefully I don't get a bad mark on it because I did send it out the wrong way. And you know, if he wants to complain about it or wants to be angry or something, I can apologize. And you know, since it's my first sale, I'm willing to send him a completely the thing that I sent him is a grenade launcher site. I have about 400 of them, a little over 400 grenade launcher sites for the M1 Garand, M1903 Springfield, the 1903A, and then the carbine variant of the M1 Garand. It's just a little bit shorter. I'm trying to find. Here's one. Now this one's already been opened. It comes wrapped in cosmoline. They're new old issue. They were made in 1944. The packages still look brand new. Comes in. This is paper soaked in cosmoline. That's why these things look brand new, um, despite the fact they were made in 44. See, it says sight grenade launcher M15. Um, and no, that's not like an M15 rifle. That's the model of grenade launcher sight. And I sold one of them for $10, and it's because it's all I had on me at the time. What I literally grabbed was like a wrench and a screwdriver. I got them for $1.50 a piece. I was going to try to sell them just so that I could get them to teach me how to do it, to show me how to do it. It's like, oh no, you just you got anything else you can sell? And he sells these grenade launcher sites, so I didn't want to sell them on eBay. I wanted to sell something else, but he told me, well, we'll post a couple of those up, and I don't want to sell them over eBay. These grenade launcher sites are actually for a project for a 37 millimeter flare launcher for cruise ships and the like. Um, if you have actual rated firearms on board, then there's lots of international laws in you know national waters. Because these cruise ships go all over the world. If there's firearms on board, then they can be searched and seized and a lot of stuff like that. A flare launcher is different. If you're attacked by Somali pirates and you've got a flare launcher, especially 37 millimeter, you're illuminating the hell out of it. So God and everybody knows that something's happening. The other thing is that if need be, yeah, I'm pretty sure that having a few of them flares hit within 20 yards of your boat scare the shit out of you. Plus, it's going to illuminate the water for a good 10 to 15 minutes, apparently, on some of these flares. One of these 37 millimeter flares, it says that it's supposed to hover overhead for almost 10 minutes. That means it's got a big parachute on it and a tiny load on it. And it might actually get carried off into the stratosphere. You never know. But this is all stuff that I needed help with. And the more overwhelmed I am, the more difficult things are. And you really have to have somebody who understands that, yeah, I'm not paying you money to tell me what to do. I'm paying you money to teach me how. If I spend that money, I don't expect, but I hope that you would at least understand that as broke as I am, if I'm paying you for this help, it's probably all the money I have left. And it's because everybody else fell through. Everybody else, see, that's the thing. They tell me, Sean, you need to do this, 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 and this. Well, I've tried doing that, and that. I need somebody to teach me how to do that in person. If I pay you money in person, will you teach me? Oh yeah, Sean, I'll do it. Then I pay them the money, and they're supposed to teach me, and we're sitting there getting ready, and then the girlfriend calls and they leave. And after that, they just tell me how to do it. Well, we can troubleshoot it over the phone. All right. Well, I pulled it up, and let's troubleshoot it over the phone. And then, well, your girlfriend comes home and you want to have sex. Or you just blow me off, blow me off, blow me off after taking my money, and I just never hear from you again. Or the next time I hear from you is after Natalie's dead and you're being a fucking douchebag. There are a lot of channels that are on YouTube about guns, and YouTube keeps taking away their monetary whatever, where they can make money off of having those videos. And I don't understand that, since Facebook and YouTube both allow gun manufacturers and gun training sites to advertise the shit out of themselves on these sites. Like one of the guys on YouTube who I was watching today was talking about how they keep demonetizing his videos, and during that, I'm thinking to myself, well, they didn't demonetize the one that we're watching because they just stopped in the middle of the video to show me a video about some firearms. So obviously, they're not as completely anti firearm as they're claiming, because when they monetize a gun video, it's gun videos that are put on as the advertisement. Or that lady for the Sasquatch soap commercial. That's kind of weird. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like, it's okay for the corporations who are trying to sell these guns, sell these firearms, and things like that. But it's not okay for this guy to try to educate you or try to get compensated for the time that he's spending to educate you. I suppose that's a long ass rant, and I got to go try to install a carburetor. Um, I was gonna try to wait until after 1 o'clock or 1:30 to go over there, so that I wasn't going and harassing them at lunch. And it looks like I went well over on this video, so I'm gonna let y'all go. Be safe.